A very good evening again to all of you. Today we do have amongst us for the session to be conducted by Dr. Ranjini Krishnaswamy. Dr. Ranjini, I have made a mistake. It is not Krishnaswamy. I'm sorry. It's Ma'am Ramaswamy.
Swami, you're right. You're
Okay,
right.
is it
It is
okay?
Krishna
Thank you
Swami.
so much.
I just waved out
Okay, thank
to
you. ma'am.
acknowledge my introduction. Yeah.
Dr. Ranjini is a recipient of the National Award for Teachers from the Government of India and has won several other awards too. She has been in the academic arena for close to 4 decades, 25 years of which she has been a principal. She has also been a teacher trainer at the ECC Ed and BEd levels. Her core competency is curriculum construction and development, school administration, the teaching of English language. She travels extensively all over the country, conducting workshops in the English language for both teachers and students, as well as on all matters educational. As a resource person in English, her services are highly sought after. Currently, she is the Director Education for the Dosti Group and is mentoring their educational projects. Their first school in Shilpata at Planet North has become functional since 2017. It is currently till grade 7 and awaiting admission. With over 700 students in less than 2 years, Dosti Foundation School Shilpata is all set to change the face of education in Mumbai. We welcome you, Dr. Ranjini. Please take over.
Thank you, Pradipto. I'd like to start by thanking Aditya Birla Education Academy, Pradipto, my good friend Lata, and Dr. Anuradha Sridhar for having invited me here. Thank you. Just a small thing, Dosti Foundation School is now till Standard 9 and we're affiliated to the ICSE board. Okay, thanks. Yes, thank you, Lata. Lata will be guiding us through this by helping me share my screen. But before that, the topic for this evening's discussion is educational leadership, being a mentor. Let us try and understand the 3 main words that are involved here: education, leadership, and mentor. Education, I am told, and all of us have learned from years, it is the drawing out of all that is the best in a human being. And leadership is about helping people discover themselves and taking themselves forward. If this is leadership and education, then what is mentoring? Mentoring is about going beyond leadership. In very simple terms, it is being more than a leader. Let us try and understand what mentorship has to offer, what is the process involved, and how many people are involved. Lata, can I have the next screen, please? Lata, yes. In very, very simple terms, mentorship is a process involving 2 people. One called the mentor and a mentee. Who is the mentor? The mentor is usually someone with a lot of experience in the field. People look up to him or her. He knows he's an expert in his subject. And he is or she is the to-go-to person whenever you have something to do with this. Okay? In the educational field, it goes without saying that the mentor should be well qualified, should have had a lot of experience doing the job that he or she is doing, should have been a principal for some time. Okay, before I go on, I must tell you one thing. For the purpose of this master class, we are restricting ourselves to schooling, okay, up to grade 12. We're not going into the field of tertiary education, correct? So I'm going to restrict myself to school education. And The mentee is invariably a person with some amount of aspiration, someone who wants to get ahead in life. Lata, can I have the next scene, please? Next screen? Yeah. So, the mentor is usually a person of some experience and expertise in the field with a certain stature, someone who people look forward to. I mentioned a few names: Dr. Abdul Kalam, Vikram Sarabhai, Homi Bhabha, J.R.D. Tata, Narayan Murthy, and so on and so forth. Now, next slide. Yeah. The mentee could be a person from the same field with potential and talent, having a lot of growth aspirations. Now, as I said earlier, the relationship between the mentor and mentee is one of a professional activity. It is a trusted relationship between two people, and it involves a meaningful commitment. The whole purpose of mentoring is to nurture and retain a healthy workforce that can react quickly to change and is capable of developing, adapting, and changing itself over time, depending on the situation. Every one of you, my dear friends, is a potential mentee. You are also a potential mentor. Because in our journey of life, we meet a lot of people, and every one of them influences us in one way or the other. So the mentor in this sense is the guru, guide. Right since time immemorial in our country, during the time when we talk of the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and all our epics, we've always had gurus. The Guru Shishya Parampara has been very active in our country. And the guru or the mentor, we call them mentor today. This is a relatively new word in the lexicon of educational leaderships. However, it's quite common in corporate sector. They talk of mentoring, a CEO and so on and so forth. We'll talk about that later. So all kings had a guru, a kul guru as they called them, and they would send their children to his gurukul, and the child would get the right kind of education at the hands of the guru. And the guru would decide, I will accept this person or not accept the person. It was not like the situation we have today where, schools are marketing their seats and people are saying, come on, I need students. It wasn't that way. The guru could decide. So the mentor is someone at a very high kind of a level. Okay, someone who guides. We've all heard of Chanakya Niti during the Chandragupta times. That Chanakya again was a kind of a mentor, the king. Can we have the next slide, please? So, very, very simple layman terms, because I'm trying to be as simple as possible. The mentor handholds the mentee, guiding him or her while navigating the path of professional growth. Does that mean one has a mentor only in professional arena? No. You can have a mentor anywhere. It could be for spiritual growth. It could be for professional growth. It could be for personal growth. When the child walks into the school for the first time, the nursery teacher is perhaps the very first mentor, because she is the one who handholds the child, taking him into class, introduces him to school, as it were, and introduces them to the wonder and the mystery and the excitement of school life. So the nursery school teacher, I would like to believe, is the very first mentor for a child. And then gradually, every teacher, believe me, is a mentor. Yes, unfortunately, we don't consider them as mentors. We say, oh, this is a teacher. But really speaking, because the influence that the teacher has when the child walks into school for the first time is very, very great. Next slide, please. Can everyone with expertise be a mentor? Most of you know the answer to this. It is a capital no. Everyone cannot be a mentor. Why? Let's try and discover why everyone cannot be a mentor. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay. Remember one thing. Ours is a country with a traditional setup. And in our work hierarchy, we normally have an employee with some experience and expertise. He or she becomes a manager, a project manager, several project managers, depending on the kind of expertise and capability that they show us. Then go on to becoming a leader of maybe one project or a group of projects. In the educational arena, the manager is usually the equivalent of a manager is the HOD, the head of the primary section or middle school section, and so on and so forth. And then the leader is the school principal. And then finally, you have the mentor. Here, I must make one clarification. The mentor often does not occupy any special position in the educational hierarchy. He may not even be part of the organization. He or she may be from somewhere outside. But as I said earlier, he or she is the person to go to find out what we're in a little bit of a challenge. How can you help us out? Okay. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay. Now here, I'm not going to talk too much about these skills because we are having shortly a 3-day workshop for those of you who are interested. Okay. These are some of the skills that we have borrowed from the corporate sector, and we have on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, when we have this 3-day webinar, we've got 2 more resource people coming in. I'll introduce you to them at the end of this session. So they will be talking more about this. Okay. So complex problem solving. Our life is full of problems, whether or not we accept it. How we handle them. If you think it's a problem, it's a big problem. If you think it's not a problem, you'll manage. Again, the complexity depends on how you choose to view it. Okay. So this is something most leaders and mentors need to know. How will you solve an issue or a problem? Critical thinking. Nowhere has this particular skill become in great demand as it is today in the 21st century. Especially in the educational arena, there are so many challenges. For example, right now, who ever thought 8 months ago that we'd be meeting across and talking on a digital platform? I, for one, never thought of that at all. Pradipto said, I travel all over the country doing workshops. Perhaps now traveling will be cut down. We'll be probably talking over Zoom or any other platform we choose to discover and find, easy to work with. Critical thinking, creativity. I'm not going to talk about creativity because every teacher, I repeat this, every teacher is a creative thinker. If he or she wants to be, let me qualify that. Some of us choose to be creative. Some of us choose to follow the off-beaten track. Not because we can't do this, simply because we're scared of trying to be different. Okay? People management. I'm going to spend 2 minutes talking about people management. When they say, okay, we're having a principal, I'm talking about a school principal because this is about educational leadership. And invariably, a school principal, after several years of having honed their skills, would become a mentor. Being a principal is not so much about being knowledgeable about history, geography, economics, or English or something. It's more about being able to manage people who are part of your team. In a big school, in a large school, you have 100 staff members, about 40 in the preschool, 40 in the middle school, and another 40, let's say, in the main school, secondary section. Each of them has different thrusts, different focuses, and different, what shall we say, competencies. They bring with them their own baggage, both positive and negative. When you say baggage, you normally think of it as being negative, but yes, they also have a lot of positive things to bring about. How the school leader, how the school, because she is their mentor, you understand? Then how she handles this is very, very important. Here again, I must mention, manager is process oriented. The leader or the principal is people oriented. But the mentor goes one step beyond that. He subsumes or she subsumes the processes, the people, and one step beyond. And what that? Empathy. Empathy is a key character of a mentor. Another thing which is related to empathy is the emotional quotient. The mentor has to have compulsorily a very, very high level of emotional security, a very high emotional quotient. Collaboration and coordination. We're talking about collaboration, coordination all the while, and yet at the same time, many of us tend to work in isolation. Today, if a leader, a mentor, is not willing to be part of a team, I think there's no point in calling themselves leaders or mentors. Can I have the next slide, please? I've spoken about emotional intelligence. Little addition to emotional intelligence, I must mention that the mentor needs to have a very, very high level of personal and professional security. You know, the other day I was talking to a principal of a school. The principal said to me, she said, you know, Ranjani ma'am, I was talking about some work related issue and I said, what does your vice principal do? And she looked at me and she said, you know what, I don't have a vice principal. I said, why ever not? You're the head of such a huge section. The more you decentralize, the better it is for you. So she says, no, because when the minute you appoint a vice principal, just waiting for you to get down so that they can take over the seat. I was a little saddened because I'd like to believe that as a leader and a mentor, it's important for you to create more leaders, create more people who are empowered taking their decisions. And one can only do that if you yourself are very secure about your professional competency, ability, as well as your ability to handle the team, judgment and decision making. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to, Mona, will you just unmute yourself, cut down your video and just show your face, please? Mona Subramaniam, will you just do that? Yeah, Mona is going to take us to the corporate sector skills that we need. She'll be doing this when we meet again on the 9th, 10th and the 11th. Okay? I will introduce her to you formally at the end of the session. Thank you, Mona.
Thank you.
Yeah. Negotiation. Nowhere do we need this particular skill than in the educational field. Can you imagine you're talking, like I'll tell you right now, we've got all schools in the lockdown situation. Half the people, I can see Mr. Shetty from another school there, he's there, he knows, fees are not coming in. You need to negotiate with the people that are. I can see Ishita Chaudhary, principal of another school, fees don't come in. How do you run the school? How do you pay your staff their salary? You're constantly in this thing, juggling around, negotiating, telling them why they need to pay the fees and why we are, if at all, we are cutting down and giving them an ad hoc salary. Logic behind that. While you're trying to handle the parents on one side, you have to handle your staff. Ma'am, I'm doing the same work. I'm not getting the salary. Why? You need to talk to them. And then the children who are so new to this entire thing, look at the challenges the poor children are facing. You know, because they are children born to the digital world. But academic knowledge dissemination, teaching, schooling is actually a social skill. You need to meet people. You need to talk to one another. It's not about just, okay, chalo, theek hai, history is all right. Build the Taj Mahal, what is it built of, and so much and so forth. You need to give them the mystery behind Taj Mahal. All this can only be done if you're there next to them. But difficult situations call for, creative solutions. And so thank God for Zoom. Otherwise, where would you and I have been? Okay? Service orientation. Education, ladies and gentlemen, has a high sense of idealism and nobility. True idealism and nobility will not keep your kitchen fires running, I agree, but we're professionals first and foremost. Having said that, there is a high sense of service orientation when you become, because you realize that you are very highly qualified. The same person with that qualification in the corporate sector is going to probably draw 3 times your salary, with a lot of other benefits. And all that you and I are going to take home when we go is the fact that we have nurtured so many minds. We created so many human beings whom we've empowered, made them skilled. So teachers, this is for you. You are a mentor. I don't know if I said this. I need to share this particular example. When I was a teacher many, many, many years ago, there was this child. I'm going to mention his name. If he's somewhere, I'm sure he'll learn. A young boy called Irshad Alvi, very nice child. A little hesitant, not very confident, not particularly good in maths. Maths has been everybody's bugbear. And when I used to correct, I used to teach maths those days in the middle school. And when I would correct their papers, I would give a big tick if the sum was right, a small cross if the sum was wrong. I don't know why I did this. I just did this. And, about several years after he had passed out of school, one evening when I was getting ready to leave, this young, handsome-looking man came into the office and he looked at me and he said, "Hello, Miss Ranjani, how are you?" And I said, "I'm fine." I said, "I'm not sure I recognize you. You've grown up. You are a student. Otherwise, you wouldn't have called me Miss Ranjani." And he says to me, "Yes, I'm Irshad Dalvi." I said, "Oh my God, Irshad, you're looking so different." And then he said, "Miss Ranjani, I'm an engineer and I've just got I've been placed and I can thank you." I said, "Why?" So because I didn't remember him as being a very good student. So he said, "No, I remembered the big ticks and the small crosses." And that's what encouraged me and spurred me to study engineering. So these are the things that we carry home with us. Okay? Flexibility, once again, unless you're knowledgeable about the thing. And you also have the humility to say, "Okay, is that true? Perhaps I've made a mistake." Then you can't be a leader or a mentor. I'm using the word leader and mentor, intermittently and correlatedly, because I believe every teacher is a mentor, every principal is a mentor. And of course, people like Dr. Malini Goyal and myself who work together, we've been very fortunate. Malika Sen, we work together. We've had chances. Malika, just raise your hand, please unmute yourself and also show us. Yes. Malika, can you do that? Yeah. Malika Sen, again, is another person I have great regard for. And once you meet her, you'll also realize our career graphs have been growing almost in the same manner. She's going to be sharing the next 9th, 10th, and 11th along with me, talking about academic mentorship. Thank you, Malika. Okay. Lata, can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. Why do we need membership? Sorry, not membership, mentorship. See, I made a mistake. This is particularly important in the present complex situation because challenges are so many. Now, for example, I did not know. I said, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" So the first thing I realized when this lockdown wasn't stopping within 3 months, 3 weeks, I did a little search for myself and I registered for an online learning program. Because if I'm expecting teachers to do something, I need to know that first. And here I would like to praise and congratulate all the teachers here because every one of them has equipped and trained themselves so beautifully to handle this online session. Congratulations, teachers. You are the real COVID warriors, because children are not going to go back to school for a long, long time. Parents are scared. But they can't lose a year. It's not, we're not doing international IB that we're taking a gap year. We're not doing that. This is regular schooling. And even 1 year in the process of development can make a big difference the lives of children, the academic lives of children. Okay. Second, mentors have this wealth of experience, practical knowledge, and none of the insecurities. Why do I say none of the insecurity? I'm not out there to take your job. I've had my innings. I've done all that I can. I'd like to believe that I've done a good job, otherwise you wouldn't have called me here to give this talk. And I'm ready to share my knowledge with every one of you. Yes, situations may have changed. I'd also like to believe that a mentor has kept himself, herself up to date with the changes. Because otherwise, you cannot, be a mentor. You need to be ready to learn. I'm constantly asking my principal, she's quite good in digital technology and there's a digital interface. I'm not as good. So I normally ask him, you tell me, I'm not so sure about this. Tell me how to do this PowerPoint slide. What to do that. Here, I also like to acknowledge the presence. I don't know whether Aanchal is here, but if she's here, Aanchal, I'd like to acknowledge and thank you for helping me with these slides. Lata, I think you know Aanchal, so please tell her I acknowledged her, because if Aanchal hadn't helped me making these slides, I don't think I would have been able to do it as well. These mentors can be used to guide the aspiring professionals through this professional jungle. Half their problems will be, there is a fire. You don't have to go through it and get burnt. All they'll tell you is try and move aside. Or where, like we know there is COVID outside. What are we doing? We're wearing those PPEs and walking around, right? So that's who's telling us? The doctors are telling us that. The medical professionals are telling us that. So we're learning from them. Next slide, please. Every organization, in the academic arena, we need mentors more than ever. Young people, right from the time when you're young, you want to be a teacher. I remember, is there any teacher here who, when they were young, did not play teacher? All of us have played teacher, whether we become teachers or not. But I still remember when I first became a teacher, and I had a colleague, and I asked her, I hadn't done my B.Ed at that time. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to continue in this field or not. So I asked her, I said, how did you do this? She says to me, you know what? I followed whatever my teachers did. I imitated them. And the best teachers who kind of impressed me, I did all the things that they did. And perhaps they did something right because it worked. It worked 10 years ago, it's working now. Okay? Corporate sectors need it. Why? Because of the rat race involved. If you go 1 day late, or you go half an hour late, or you miss 1 day, God knows what can happen. Friends of mine who are in the corporate sector are constantly telling me that. They're so stressed out. At the age of 40, they're burning out. They want to quit, they want to retire. While people like me, long after retirement, we're still working. Why? Because academic arena gives you that sense of joy, because you're always young. You're interacting with young people. And some of that youth and energy and enthusiasm rubs on you. Okay. And why do they have, because of the youth salary. Next slide, please. Now, every teacher needs a mentor. It doesn't have to be the principal. It could be a senior teacher. It could be somebody from outside. It could be anybody. Teaching professionals need mentors. And I'm saying this especially because we're dealing with educationists and teachers. Teaching is a thankless job. If you notice right now, everybody is talking about cutting down the school fees. They say, why should we pay school fees? Schools are shut down. Not one person has said, how will teachers get their salary? I'm not saying this because I'm a teacher, but I'm saying this because I can see what's happening outside. We're opening bars, we're opening hotels, but we're not talking of opening schools. even on a short time basis or on a shift system, because that brings the money. There's no money coming in that sense for the powers that be, as it were. I'm not very diplomatic, you know, I keep saying all these things. And where does a teacher go after 15 years of being a teacher? If she's fortunate, she'll become an HOD. Luckier, she'll become a vice principal. And more luck, she can become a principal at the end of 20 years or 15 years. Unlike the corporate sector, where every year you have things and there are financial rewards that are not financial, but rewards all the same. So the only reward we have is like the one I got from Irshad Dalvi, and children who come and say, ma'am, I'm here because of you. I think every single teacher sitting in this crowd can relate to that. And again, where is the visibility for a teacher on the social pecking order? I've said this before and I'm saying this again. On the social pecking order, teachers are right last. I'll share with you a very funny statement. There was one teacher, young, very pretty looking teacher. And, you know, she was, I think, about 32 or 33. And quite casually, you know, and when you've been a principal for a long time, you kind of talk to them. So I told her, I said, you know, young girl like you should get married. Why aren't you getting married? So she told me, she said, of course I want to get married, but where are the good men? I said, that's a challenge. And then she said, no. People are coming to see me, but they say, oh, teacher hai, zyada pagar nahi milega. So on the social pecking order, because salaries are not good. This is not about mooning the fate of teachers, but I'm just trying to tell you why teachers need men. We still need to talk to them, make them feel that, look, teaching is a great job. What you're doing is good. Without you, where would the architects be? Where would the doctors be? Where would the engineers be if you didn't do your job well? Okay, next slide. Yes, Lata, can you put this? Is very nice, just to break my sound of my talk. I'm putting something for you. Why we need a mentor, why we need a guru.
So if God doesn't necessarily exist, why do we need gurus? Why do we need Sadhguru?
Why we need gurus?
Do you drive in Delhi?
Do I drive? Unlike you, I have a fear of wheels.
So if you drive in an unknown terrain,
Yes,
you use these days a GPS.
yes.
Usually a strange woman will tell you, turn right. You turn right. She says, turn left. You say, turn left. She says, make a U-turn. You make a U-turn. Why? Simply because you're not familiar with the terrain. When you're in an unfamiliar terrain, it is sensible to take instructions.
So, are you saying gurus are the new GPS?
Not new. Long time ago we've been, for a very long time, way before the GPS came. GPS means what? Guru Positioning System.
Okay, thank you, Lata. We'll have the next slide. But to continue with that, as I said, we've always had mentors, right from the memorial. Okay, and only now that we're giving them these fancy names like mentors and so on and so forth. Okay, what then is the role? Why do we need a mentor, and what are the roles of the mentor and the mentee? The role of the mentor is to facilitate the mentee's professional growth, create a positive climate, counsel them, communicate to them what they should be doing or what they should not be doing. But not in, look, listen to me, not that way. In a night, like a guide by the side, as it were. Okay? Help the mentee identify challenges, arrive at solutions. Let them do it themselves. You stand at the side. Help them when they ask for it. You know, unfortunately, a lot of leaders say, it's my way or the highway. That does not work anymore. Which is perhaps one of the reasons why they're having mentors today who are able to help out by just saying, okay, come, you want to jump up? Hold my hand, come on. You know, things like that. Share your thoughts and rationale with them. You know, very often when I used to be a principal, and even now as a mentor, and when I was a director for some time, and the school director principal, I would always tell them, you know what, principal, do what you're doing. Just keep me informed. And the reason I need to be informed, why the mentor needs to be informed is, should something be wrong, the mentor is like your safety net, help you out of that situation. The mentor is like telling, hey, look, you're going this way. It's very possible you might have some kind of, you might meet a block. If that block happens, how are you going to get out of it? Refer the mentee to others if you're not sure of solutions or if you don't have the answers. This is what a mentor does best, because the mentor knows he or she is not in the role to take on any job. He realizes that his is an advisory job. His is a helping job, a guiding job, clearing the roads, as it were, so that they can go. Not totally, where need be. Okay? Next. If this is the mentor's role, what then is the mentee's role? There are many other roles. Of course, I'm not going to talk about this. Today's masterclass is more like an overview of what is going to happen on the 9th, 10th, and 11th. If you're interested, you're more than welcome to register for that. Now, the mentee should take charge of their own development. Okay, now let's assume we got a brand new school, a principal has been appointed, and Ranjani Krishnaswamy has been made their mentor. Okay, now the mentee, the principal will have, okay, this is my plan for the school. It's not as though the mentor is going to say, come on, do all this. No, not at all. The mentor will go through the program and say, excellent, fine. Perhaps this is one area where you might find a problem. I remember when I went there, I had this thing, but perhaps things have changed, you may not find. If this should happen, I'm around. Okay, don't worry. Set their agenda for meetings, but keep mentor informed. Show a keen interest in learning new things. That's important. Register for every class that happens, which is going to add value to you. I remember when I was younger, I would go to every workshop that was there, whether it was on a Saturday or a Sunday, even though it came at a lot of personal sacrifice. And I remember my school would say, okay, there is a meeting on Sunday, send Ranjani, she will go. And perhaps it was that eagerness to learn and wanting to know more. There is, you must have that fire in your belly, the junoon, as I'm very fond of saying, you need to do that. And this is what the mentor helps you getting. Ability and willingness to be a team player. This, in today's world, is absolutely, I'm going to underline this 1,000 times. If necessary, the mentee can make mistakes, no harm. Because sometimes mistakes help you learning. And perhaps the mentee will remember that better if he or she makes a mistake rather than the mentor saying, avoid this. And carry out the task and complete them within a stipulated time. Next slide, please. Now, what can the mentor and the mentee do together? Because they're not sitting in two isolated compartments or two bubbles. They have to get together. It's very important. Work together and plan. I said internship. Mentorship can also happen in the student community. You're doing your PhD, for example, your PhD guide is your mentor. So you need to sit down and say, okay, this is your timeline. For example, a new school is begun. All right, you have a principal, you have a mentor, and you have a whole lot of other stakeholders. Stick together and look at the mentor because he or she is the much senior person with more expertise in that arena. Say, okay, this is a timeline. Okay, we'll have 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, whatever. Let that be very specific. And then say, okay, in this specified time, this is what I'm going to achieve. And rationale behind that also. Mention why we are going to achieve all this in that very specific time. I'd say 10, time bound. So once this is done, then you both know where you are and what your goals are. Decide on the frequency. The mentor is not going to sit in the mentee's pocket. and breathe down their neck. Not at all. Stay away. In fact, the mentor is most effective when he or she is far away. If you keep going down every time and say, okay, what is happening? What is happening? The mentee is going to get fed up and say, okay, you take over, I will go away. The mentor is not a remote control. Now, maintain, this is very important, especially more so. This is something that schools and educational institutions have borrowed from the corporate sector. Maintain documentary information of all the activities, interaction, assessment, and the evaluation program. What has the mentee been doing? What are the different people in the, hierarchy? What are their jobs? What have they been doing? Have they performed, not performed, so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Successful mentoring has 4 phases: preparation, negotiation, enabling growth, and closure. Let's very briefly see what this is all about. Preparation. Next slide. Okay. For example, let's assume I've been asked to mentor a particular organization or a school. I have to ask myself, do I want to be a mentor to this particular person or organization? That is a question I will answer to myself. If the person asks me, if I say, no, I don't think I can do it, yes, then I'm entitled to answer them why I don't want to do it. Okay? Do I have enough time to devote to them, being his or her mentor? Will I use my entire network, facilitate the growth of this person? And will both of us benefit out of this? This is the preparation stage. The mentor needs to ask himself or herself this question. Next slide. Yeah. I think there's one more slide before this. Okay, negotiation. Preparation. Thank you. Write down the expectations and tell them that this is what I expect after 5 months, or after 1 year, or after 2 years. And if at the end of 6 months or 1 year you realize that perhaps this is not going to happen, then you need to renegotiate it and say, look, I thought we were going to do this. And so, like for example, all the new schools that have come up now, they probably have to renegotiate, because if a school has started this year and we are starting it in the lockdown, obviously they're not going to be able to do what they plan to do within, say, X years or Y years. They need to rethink their strategies. Okay? And then say, okay, what are the realistic? All of you are familiar with SMART. We borrowed this from the corporate sector. Be specific. Okay? Be very specific. Be very, very clear about what you're doing. Yeah? And realistic, time-bound, so on and so forth. Methodical. Have goals that are achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Next. How do you enable growth of the organization, of the mentor, of the mentee? Set down small goals. Say after 1 month, we will do this. After 2 months, we will do this. And see if they can be met with. If they're not able to be met with, then we'll have to say, maybe that's when the renegotiation comes in. I told you about that in the earlier slide. This will give the mentor an idea of the capability, sincerity, and commitment of the mentee towards the mentorship program. We're going to be devoting a big section of this and time, this especially for student mentorship, because while we're talking about educational mentorship, there are 2 aspects: educational leaders as well as the students whom we are kind of trying to educate. So we will be talking about this is particularly applicable to them, and we will be spending a lot of time doing this in the 3 program. Next. Closure. You've done all this, and then the mentor can say, okay, this is fine. I've done a little, this is like a pilot project. Do this, do a SWOT analysis, and then say, this is it. Then you will say, okay, fine. Now I can do this. I can mentor this person. You observe that person, just kind of very remote, go through. When I say remote, not same kind of remote control I was talking about earlier. Here, just see whether this person or this organization is good enough for you to mentor. Next. Mentorship. Mentorship is about this. is about coping with complexity, resources, and processes. Leadership is about adapting to change and leading competitive forces all around. 2 weeks ago, we had a masterclass where the resource person spoke about adapting to change. Nowhere is this more applicable than today in the educational arena. But mentorship is about helping both the manager and the leader cope with situations as they are and visualize what can happen. And this is very strange because as teachers, as leaders, as mentors, and as trustees, we are training children, preparing them for a world 15 years from now, a world which we know nothing about, a world where so many careers that are presently current now may be obsolete and a whole lot of new things may come in. So really speaking, all of us are in a process mentoring each other when we go through this journey of going towards the future. And very, very important, the leader or the mentee must have a similar dream, a similar vision like the mentor. It should be a reflection of who he or she is. Like, for example, when Prodipto introduced me, he said, education is about to change in Mumra. That was the dream that I came with. I said, in Mumra, I'm going to change the face of education. My team, my trustees, my team, all of them had the same aim. Whatever problems we're facing it together because we know we're not alone. We're walking the same way. We're reaching the same goal because our goals are the same. Our vision is the same. Our mission is the same. And our target audience is the same. Yes, next slide, please. We're winding up. I'm in the wind up mode, but this is very important. No matter what the position, whether it's a student, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a principal, vice principal that you're mentoring, the profession, both that you need to look for is both professional and personal integrity. If that is not there, then perhaps we need to think a second time. Because these are the hallmarks of a leader. Never accept a mentee, a person who says yes, yes to everything you say. Shall we close the school tomorrow because I think the weather is very bad? The government says that it's going to rain tomorrow. Let's not have school. Yes, ma'am, absolutely right. Never, do not have such a person at all. Because I always say this can only mean two things. Either the person is a yes man and wants to make you happy, or the person has no single idea or creative idea of his own. Mentee should be someone who is daring, who is willing to contradict you sometimes, not just for the sake of contradicting, because there's a rationale behind that contradiction. You know what, I'm not so sure this is a good thing to do. Yes, it works there, but perhaps it may not work here. That's very important. And then, yes, allow them. If that person falls down, you're there to pick them up. Don't say, I told you so. Say, okay, next time, let's do it my way. Okay? As I said, both these are recipes for disaster. If you have a yes man or if you have someone, who has no idea of his own. Next slide. Of course, over the course of life's journey, we have many, many mentors. Each of them serving a purpose. And as you move forward in your career ambitions, you must remember that the common factor between a mentor and a mentee is that both of them should be mutual respect and commonality of vision. And I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier. Empathy and high level of emotional quotient. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm open for questions now. Thank you. Next slide. Any questions? We are ready to answer.
Please raise your hand in case you have a question. We will unmute you and allow you to ask the question right away.
Please ask, because I like people who ask questions. I can see so many of my former colleagues too. I can see Veena Bangre, I can see Arpita Mukherjee, I can see Andrea D'Souza. Very nice, nice. Thank you for thanks all of you for coming.
I think
Anuradha, thank you. Yes.
Hi, ma'am. This is Rama.
Yes, Rama, where are you?
Um,
Rama, I'm just trying to locate you. Yes, Rama, I can see you. Yes.
Yeah. I haven't started
Can you
my
show me
video.
your video, please? I like seeing the person I'm talking to. Yes.
Okay, that's better, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it was a very enlightening session. I'm an aspiring educational administrator. I have spent some time in education. I'm not an educator, but looking forward to making my space in the management of education. So it was very enlightening for me. I was wanting to ask one thing, that when we talk about mentorship, I have realized that in our own teaching curriculum, when you talk about, say, student teachers, B.Eds or M.Eds, when they are doing their, it's not so much there from their beginning. I mean, I guess teachers start to learn this mentorship once they are on the job, or it's more like an on-the-job training rather than being present right as the basics of when you do a B.Ed, for example. I don't know if I'm really right or not.
You're partly right. You're partly right, but not wholly. The reason being, you know what? Mentoring as a terminology has entered our lexicon relatively recently, okay? Though it was always there, but we never called it. What happened is you just followed someone. For example, you wanted to be a teacher, you just looked at somebody. Like, for example, my greatest mentor, who I'm sure she never even realized it, was Dr. Meru Bengali, former Vice Chancellor of the university, okay? Now, the way she spoke, the way she did things, you subconsciously you start imitating her, you know. And that's we humans are great at imitating people who impress us. And that's how it all starts. And again, you know, mentoring as a training program or as a course has not really entered education in a very big way, for whatever reason. You know, like I said, somebody said, no, oh, looking to take your chair. Perhaps there is this sense of insecurity. I don't know. Maybe that's why people who are still in the chair don't do that. But I can assure you one thing. I, for one, would insist. I remember 8 years before I retired, I identified a person who I thought would be a good fit for my organization and got her on. And I would take her with me everywhere. And I would say, look, this is how I'm handling it. You're welcome to handle it your way. Okay? And today I'm very happy to see that she's one of the very good principals in the school. I'm happy to say that so many of my former colleagues are leaders in their own way. I'd like to believe I had a small role in that, becoming leaders in their own way. And we are very good friends even today, and I don't hesitate, you know, because I'm mentoring a new school project. So there are things that I feel that I will ask them. So I tell them, do you think this is okay? Can I do that? And I don't. That's why I said a mentor should have a very high level of professional and personal security. Yeah. Yes, Malini. Malini, again, has been a principal of many, many years standing, a very dear friend and former colleague. She's from Kolkata. I'm sure she will also be able to share a lot of things with you. Malini, unmute yourself.
Yes. I've got the permission now. Yeah, I would like to elaborate little on your empathy part, Ranjini. I was so happy that you picked up this point. And in my journey of education, there were occasions when I think all of us have gone out of the way because the empathy came in the way, you know.
Yes.
I'll just share one instance in my life. I still remember when I was a principal of Mahadevi Birla World Academy now. And one child of class 8 was very sick. And the doctors has told that, okay, I mean, we don't know how many months are there with her, but she had paid for the exams. And the marks were much below the passing marks. And in the meeting, I said that, okay, now say this is the case, but this child will not survive. And we can give her some happiness by giving the report card or promoted to the next class.
Yes.
Yeah, and everyone was in two minds that can we do like this? Being an educational institution, sticking to the marks and all that, how can we do this? Is this something exceptional thing to a child? But then collectively, I said, okay, I take up the responsibility if anything goes wrong. But on principle, do you agree with all that? So finally, the teacher said, okay, ma'am, then we'll do that. And in the hospital, when the mother took the report card, the first thing the child asked, "Main pass ho gayi ki nahi?" And the mother came and said, "Ma'am, what happiness it went to my child. Her facial expression and everything had brightened after listening that, yes, I have been promoted." And she survived for next 2 months, that's all.
Yes, I think that was a very true. Thank you, Malini, for sharing this with us.
Many a times we have to go out of the way.
Yes. No, you have to go beyond being a teacher, beyond being a principal,
teacher,
beyond being an academician. You have to realize that first we are human beings more than anything else.
Yes, that's very important.
I was fortunate enough to have very good people, who may not have actively mentored me, but, who were good role models. And I'd like to believe that I'm trying to do the same thing for so many.
This is what remains with you after you retire, after you are not in the mainstream, that at least something good I have done,
Yes, yes. I must share, you have Ishita Chaudhary here. Ishita Chaudhary, when I first became a principal, that was a very disastrous stint of being a principal. She was a teacher in that school. That's not a stint, only 6 months. It was a disaster, total disaster. Ishita knows about it. But she's there, and today she's a principal. Maybe she also learned how not to behave from my behavior. I don't know. Yes. Anybody? Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Shetty?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We did learn a lot.
Yes, Ishita?
Yes, we did learn a lot from that stint.
Yes,
and we shall not make those mistakes.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ishita. Yes, Mr. Shetty? Unmute yourself, please. Will somebody unmute Mr. Shetty?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Good evening, all of you all.
Yeah.
My name is Gajendra Shetty. I've been in touch with Dr. Krishna Swami for quite some time, but not very long though. Could not take much advantage.
Mr. Shetty, he is a trustee at one of the very old institutions in Mumbai. Yeah.
Yeah. So while I was hearing a lot of things from you, I just jotted on a couple of things which, as a leader or as a mentor, I'm looking at you as a mentor or a leader. A couple of questions.
Yes, please. Really, please ask.
One is, in fact, as you very well know, that for most of the students, distance learning can never be the same as what in-person learning is.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but pure distance learning is suboptimal. There are no other choice.
Yes.
But having said that, because what came into my mind while I was listening to you, that most of us have developed a genuine friendship when we were in school.
Yes.
A genuine relationship, what we were inspired or motivated by our teachers, by our principals, and so many people around.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, one question that I have for you here is, want to know from you is, to ensure that the kids keep progressing on both the academic and social economic front,
mm-hmm.
what should be the role of an educator?
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe providing live teachers video conferencing session. Mm-hmm. Can you put some little bit more light into it?
Okay. Today we have lots of platforms, Mr. Shetty. Zoom is one of the most common platforms where you can have personal interaction, both people. Yes, unfortunately, it is remote. It is remote learning. It can never take the place of direct hand-to-hand, face-to-face interpersonal skills. But we do not have a choice now. Therefore, we need to do that. Yes, perhaps once we meet them, we'll need to plug in all the loopholes. I'm hoping that at least, in the West, what they've done is, in a week, they've got 2 days face-to-face learning in shifts. For example, if you have a class of 40 children, they call 20 of them in the morning, 20 in the afternoon for maybe 2 hours. And then the remaining people take. But yes, given the kind of crowded classrooms we have, and especially your school, the crowded classrooms that you have, it's a great challenge. It's not going to be easy to meet. Maybe we'll need to be creative in the way we think about it, call them. But then again, parents are very frightened. Parents don't want to send their children to school because they're scared. So we'll need to wait till this fear psychosis lessens and then go ahead and do. Maybe we can talk later separately and we can see how this can be handled. Yes. Yeah. Anybody else? Veena, yes. Veena Bangre is a former colleague, very, very organized. Veena, let us see your face, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just switching on my camera.
Yeah. Veena has been a former colleague for several years. And I was fortunate enough that she walked into school straight from the B.Ed or a couple of years into after her B.Ed. And we walked both our professional careers. We've gone in the same way, we've progressed. She used to be a third standard class teacher. Today she's teaching class 10, 11, 12, and so on and so forth. I like to believe that I played a small role in her growth.
Well, in fact, I raised my hand just to tell you that, and to tell everyone else that I've had the pleasure of working with Ranjani ma'am for 17 years directly, and we're still in touch, I think, on daily basis. Because connection, and that's the bonding that we have. And ma'am has been an excellent mentor. I think there's no day which goes by where we don't speak about her. I mean, all of us who've been trained under her, sometimes, somewhere we meet somebody and we're always talking about ma'am. So ma'am, you played a great role in my life, not just a small role.
Thank you, Veena, for those very kind words.
Okay, that's all that.
I've got Vinita also here. She's also agreed. Vinita, oh my God. Vinita used to be my student at the ECC program. And she became a teacher in school. Then she left the school and she's gone back to teach in the ECC program. Very good. I've also been very fortunate to have lovely mentees. You know, because you can only be a good mentor when you have good mentees.
I was just about to say that, Ranjani ma'am, that I think the mentor-mentee relationship is such a synergistic one that unless and until you have a good mentee, I mean, the mentor, it's just that you need to absorb it like a sponge in that sense,
Absolutely.
You know, whatever you say. Yes, yes.
I have been very, very fortunate, and I'm using this platform that I had lovely people to interact with, and out of the place where I was the head, I had at least 7 or 8 people who've gone on to become school leaders. I've been very, very fortunate, you know. In a small way, no doubt, I've been able to touch their lives, and they have touched my life. I feel I'm a better human being because of that.
True, very true. I think, are there any more questions, Lata, or we can just wrap up the session?
Yes.
Yeah, there are no more questions right now.
So
I just said, see, on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, is at the time,
yes.
On 9th, 10th, and 11th, we have a 3-day program on mentorship. Yes, those of you who are interested, contact, there is a form, I think. Archana Kumar, Archana has joined us from London. Thank you, Archana, for those very, very lovely words. So those of you who are interested, you can contact ABA, EA, and yes, Archana is there. Archana is in England currently. I've been very fortunate. They say they are fortunate. I've been fortunate to have such lovely people to mentor, you know, actually.
I think the heart of the mentor-mentee relationship is empathy.
Absolutely.
And I think that is so clearly demonstrated. I mean, it need not have been said at all, because the number of people who joined you for this session, ma'am, and the chat box is full of, talks about how you is such a wonderful mentor to each person.
Thank you. I have not seen all your names, but every one of you, thank you, because I am what I am today because you all touched my lives. Thank you
absolutely, so much. Absolutely. And I think we look forward to this session with Ranjani ma'am, because of just a short note from our end at ABIA, because mentorship in the school program is that's not fine. at B schools or the management schools, probably they teach you about leadership and mentoring. But school is such a space that you really need a mentor who can hold your hands, guide, and as someone has written, can walk the talk and show you. And I really hope that the 3 days for people who are here in the audience, who are aspiring to be school leaders, who are already school leaders, there is so much to learn from an experienced and a seasoned educator like Dr. Krishnaswamy. So hope to see you all. And thank you, Dr. Krishnaswamy, for this such a wonderful session.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here. And I'd like to place on record my thanks to Aanchal. She helped me prepare this PowerPoint session. I'm slightly technologically challenged, better than what I used to be. He helped. I think, Lata, you must tell Aanchal that I acknowledged her for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes,
thank you so much. Thanks
yes.
all of you for being here with me. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.